Hey, what is up everybody, Blaze here, and today I have for you another video of BlackCloverMobile. And inside of today's video, guys, we're going to be going over the best teams to be using for at least all of the gear dungeons here. And we're going to be pretty much starting from the top one, which is the attack dungeon, all the way down to the bottom one, which has crit res and crit damage. So if you guys are interested in this, be sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. But right before we get into it, I gotta say thank you all for all the support. We've been going insane in every last aspect. That was crazy, more than I thought that we'd actually have when it does come down to this actual, like, this whole channel. Right before the game came out, we were at like around 400 subscribers, and now that the game has been released and we've been pumping out content pretty much daily here, we're nearly at 900. I gotta say, this is amazing. Didn't think it would happen this quickly, and you guys are absolutely awesome for all the support you've been giving me. We'll continue putting up these videos as much as possible for you guys and helping you guys out with as many guides as possible. So hopefully this video comes in handy for you all. But alright, getting into the dungeon types and which teams you want to be using here. I'm going to be starting off with the team I personally use and then showing you guys some alternatives, or at least telling you guys some alternatives, because there are some units I do not have. Alright, so let's go ahead and dip straight into it here. The team that I use the most would be Charmy, Yami, Lotus, and Mars here, being very successful here. They're never failing it. They're doing it immediately. This way you're having yourself at least a healer, a DPS, someone who can knock back and slow down the enemy, as well as cause some defense reduction. And then of course Mars being our tanker. With this team here, you can have them fate link together. You don't really need to, but it is very helpful, and I'll explain my reasons why. Now with this, of course, with the fate link, of course, they end up getting themselves a taunt together, most likely, or at least a higher chance of it, in which this is what you want to do. You want to make sure at least Mars is getting that taunt off here, being he's going to use the fate link the most here, and then of course Lotus is going to use his actual ultimate. By doing this here, we can definitely say that Mars is going to be taking all the damage and then healing that damage from Charmy as well, while everyone else pretty much goes ballistic. This is something that has worked very well for me, and is definitely one of my favorite teams. Though if I did have a better character, or a couple other characters, which I will be mentioning in a second, I would be changing this team up. Now if you guys wanted to use this team specifically here, these are the sets that I do have it on. You don't technically need Charmy's ultimate here. You could just leave it as a 2 and just have her use her basic attack as well. But I have it set to this mainly because everything happens perfectly in alignment, and everything will work perfectly whenever you try it. So I do suggest give it a test out, and check it out when you do get the chance with it. Now this is just one of the teams that I do suggest for the most part, but if we wanted to go for the at least the best, so-called best team here that you guys would like to be farming here, we're going to be using William, Lotus, Fauna, and Mars. Now only issue is I don't have William and Fauna. This team I've seen absolutely wreck some things here. So pretty much what you would end up doing here is you would get rid of Yami here, and you would also get rid of Charmy here. You would put Mars, sorry, not Mars. You would put William, and then you would end up putting Fauna in those 2 slots here, being able to at least capitalize off of this here. This is once again another team that would definitely come in handy for the most part. You could keep Mars and Lotus together on this team. It would not make a difference too much really, and they will get things done pretty dang easily. Now I'm gonna actually put these guys, put some randoms in here just to hold it as a spot placement, right? So if you're using William here, you would end up wanting to set it to William's second skill and then his ultimate, mainly because you want to try and kill things as fast as possible. William would end up buffing your best magical damager, and then of course in the second round, if you do need the damage reduction, you will have it. But let's say if this is Fauna right here, you would end up sending her to her ultimate and then her skill 2. Reason with this, why you would set it this way, is because you'll have Lotus go ahead and do the defense reduction here as well as the speed reduction, and then this will allow you to buff with William here as well, getting you that nice buff on Fauna, and then immediately Fauna using her ultimate, dealing some big boy damage, getting ready for the second round as well, and then having Mars with either a stun, or if they're together with the fate link, going ahead and having a nice taunt. This really does come in handy. This would be probably like the setup you would want to be using if this was a William at the top and Fauna at the bottom here. It definitely does come in handy when I've seen it at least used, and has a pretty good win rate as well. It's probably like 100%, sometimes 90% depending on gear, and it's definitely one of the better type of sets. Now, let's say you don't have Mars, or let's say you still don't have William, and you don't have, of course, Fauna. Well, of course, those are different things that you could possibly be replacing here, in which this is more of the free-to-play team. Now, as you guys saw me use, I took out Yami earlier. You still would use him for this free-to-play team because most people, if they re-roll, they are most likely going to be re-rolling or Yami, seeing he's one of the better people, and that's definitely what you want to be going for. So you would go ahead and use yourself, you would definitely want to use Soul here in place of Mars. You would use Yami as your other character here, and then you would use Charmy as your healer. This would actually work out perfectly here because then, of course, you have your SR healer healing like an absolute mad lad. Of course, she has her magic attack, does a ton of things with that as well. You then will have Lotus pushing people back as usual here, Yami doing most of the damage, and then Soul tanking as much as possible. Now, for those who don't know what Soul does here, Soul is pretty much a knockoff Mars for the most part. She has applying taunt on her first skill. On her second skill, she can apply attack reduction level 2, as well as an 80% for more taunt. And she can also, with her ultimate, reduce magic attack levels. So this character definitely does come in handy, at least for building wise, and you would pretty much want to use her in this way. So once again, you would want to keep Lotus as his first skill only. Then for Yami, you would like to keep at least his special skill. Sorry, not first skill. Then for Yami, you would like to use his skill 2, then his ultimate. As for Charmy, you would want to use her skill 2. You could add the ultimate, but it's not necessary. So I would say the skill 2 and just keep everything else off. And then for Soul here, Soul is in this decent place where I would like to say skill 2 would probably come in more handy, getting this off immediately. Because saying, let's say you don't kill on the first try here, you're definitely going to want to at least have a taunt ready, or at least have some defense up ready here to tank that hit that's coming up next. If she has the taunt up, then she's able to tank that hit easily, and you can go about your day. So you want to have at least your skill 2 ready on her, and then you can use the at least ultimate to make sure you're reducing magic attack level to the enemies for 2 turns, which is absolutely amazing. This is definitely a good setup that you guys could possibly use if you are free to play. All you would need to do is make sure you have Lotus and Yami, in which most people are going to be re-rolling for Lotus or William, and then also they're going to be picking their seasonal, which is Blue Yami. This is definitely one of the best free-to-play teams that most people could run here, so I would definitely suggest try investing into this team if you do have the units. All right, now going into the next dungeon here, which is going to be for HP crit damage, HP crit rate, and just I think defense pieces for the most part. Yeah, HP crit rate and defense pieces. This stage is actually not that hard if you have the right green units, especially seeing that we had a few new ones to actually drop recently. Now, for the first team that I'm going to be showing here, I'm going to be showing you guys my team for the most part, and that is going to be Licht, Lotus. Yes, you guys see it right, Lotus. It's going to be our boy Rades and Mimosa. Now, before I get hopped on for running Lotus, hear me out. I was testing a couple other teams here, and they felt a little bit slow, seeing that if you were running real, it's a lot slower seeing you only have one DPSer, and everyone else are pretty much like supports and defenders for the whole part. So you don't really get too much damage, and it takes a long time. Although it's very successful, it does take a long time. But with this team here, it's actually way faster, 100% successful, and pretty much gets everything done that you really need to do it, because you have yourself technically 2 DPSs, and then everything else just follows suit. Now with this team, of course, you're going to be having Licht as your main DPS, Lotus as your off DPS or sub DPS, with Rades as your defender, and your support being Mimosa. This way you're getting yourself a tons of defense type stuff here, nice healing, knocking back the enemy so you can get to the plate faster, while also having that damage, defense reduction from Lotus, and doing damage with Licht absolutely every single time. I haven't felt with this at all, and I started using it like 2 days ago, and I have to say it's absolutely amazing with clearing pretty quickly and getting things pretty done. What you would like to set them up is like this here. So you would use skill 2 for Licht first, then use his ultimate. And then for this, you could also use, when it comes down to Lotus here, you would use his ultimate and just regular skills. For Radies, you want to use his ultimate and his skill 2. And then for Mimosa, I would say use the skill 2 and save the ultimate for at least the next one, because at least second round that you're going to be getting hit, you're probably going to take some damage. So you want to make sure you're able to at least revive or either heal whoever needs it. This whole team is actually very, very successful. It was very surprising testing it out, and I gotta say I don't regret it whatsoever. But this is specifically just the team I use. Let's go ahead and show you guys some of the other teams that is actually needed for this. Now, for the best team that is actually out right now, that if you have these units, this would be it here, and which is Licked, Real, Radies, and Mimosa. That way you're being able to at least get the defense reduction that at least Real offers here, kind of just like a little bit of Lotus here, in which he has the defense reduction. He can dispel buffs, he can even buff block if he uses combined attack, as well he has the incapacitate / stun when it does come to his ultimate. So this is actually a really good team, while at least having those supporters backing you up. The only con I could say about this whole set is technically you only have one DPSer. You could technically build Real as another DPSer, which actually would be very helpful, because I currently have him built kind of weird. But if you haven't built like an actual DPSer with DPS sets here, he could possibly be a little bit quicker. But he is definitely kind of slower than the other team that I was using here. But it honestly does come down to the gear. But this does get it done pretty quickly. Now, when it comes down to a different, at least, team that you guys could possibly use here, you can go ahead and actually replace Licked with 2 different characters, or at least 3 different characters now. If you want it, you can go ahead and have Raya here as well. I unfortunately don't have him, so instead of Licked, you could put Raya, or instead of Real, you could put Raya. But I unfortunately just don't got them, so I won't be able to at least put them 2 in there. But you'll pretty much run it on the same set as these guys here. But if we wanted to run something different, and let's say you just don't have Licked, there are 2 options here. One of those options is Yuno here, being at least one of the most free-to-play options here. Yuno was definitely one of the characters that before Licked, and if you did not have Fugolion was here, he was definitely your better option. This character does really good with his additionals and can do everything absolutely amazing with this team. Pretty much have everyone set up the same exact way, but for at least Yuno, I would definitely say investing into his just regular attacks is a good way that you can set it up, so you can just have it on like this, so he just does his first skill. Or you can go ahead and set it up to his 2 skill, his 3 skill here, or his 2 skill and his ultimate, and then he can use his single targets. Either one works as well, because at least you're being able to get certain things done. But it's kind of tricky with at least, you know, to an extent, seeing he is an SR, his base stats are going to be a little bit lower, but they still do get the job done. Now, of course, if you have Fugolion, he is a better choice with this here as well, in which Fugolion himself can actually deal a lot of damage as well. Only difference with him is he needs to have burn stacks to do a ton of damage, but he still just gets the job done in general. Character's absolutely an amazing attacker, so if you don't have Licked and you don't want to use Yuno, Fugo is your other option, besides, of course, Raya. So that's actually another character you can possibly use. But Blade, what if I don't have, what if I have Licked, Raya, and Fugo, but I don't have a good supporter? Instead, if you don't want to use Mimosa, or you just don't have Mimosa, you can use Vanessa, and this is another team that is very top tier, in which what you would end up doing, you would set both of these guys here. I forgot to do the last one here, to actually set it up right. Oh my gosh. You kind of forgot my train of thought for a second. But what you would end up wanting to do here, you would go ahead and use at least Fugolion's 3 attack and then his 2 attack for both teams here. And then for this one here with Vanessa, I would definitely suggest using her her ultimate. Seeing her ultimate, it has a blessing of protection, being able that anything that you block, you will do some damage here. So you can either go with the ultimate, then her skill 2, or you can go ahead and swap it up and use the skill 2 and her ultimate, mainly because her skill 2, or at least her skill 2 gives you increased defense, and that really does help out a lot, in which you could use that to your advantage rather than at least going ahead and use the ultimate. If you wanted to and you felt a little bit cocky as well, You could try to just keep it as a skill 1 only, because then you're taking advantage of her accuracy. Though I don't really advise that, because she does need a little bit of her blocking, as well as she does need that increased defense, being able to at least keep your characters kind of alive. So right there is at least teams that you will be able to use for at least the green dungeons here, at least teams that are going to be very, very helpful. They do have their little free-to-play aspects, so be sure to try and mix and match if you really got to as well. As you can tell, I am mix matching certain ones, as you can see. Now when it comes to the green dungeon, I've completed everything up to 14, but I haven't completed 15 yet. But there are a few good teams that you could possibly be using. Now these teams, of course, are going to be interesting here. One of them, or at least the best one, you would actually be kind of surprised here, runs 2 SR units. Now these 2 SR units are going to be fairly interesting, but I'll show you guys the one that I've been using pretty much all the way up here. So getting all the way from 1 to 14, I've used this team, which isn't even that built yet whatsoever, as you can tell by the CC, in which is SR Fenrir, Charlotte, Yami, and Asta. Now for this team, of course, you're just going to be going in for a ton of damage, getting the additional kill as well. So let's say you kill someone who has a marker that Charlotte has put on them, Yami gets to go again, or whoever killed gets to go again. And it's pretty much constant just battering and just absolute damage here. Now for how setting this up, you want to go ahead and use the skill 2, then at least the ultimate with Fenrir. You would then want to use the ultimate and the skill 2 for at least Charlotte. And then for our Yami, you want to make sure he is set to on to only using his skill 1. And then for Asta, you want him to go ahead and use his ultimate and his skill 2 only. This is pretty good, I gotta say. It has its flaws at times. I want to say I have like an 80% to 90% win rate when it does come down to like farming 14. But it is kind of iffy. It does depend on your gear as well, because you know, you don't really have a defender here, so you're just all out just blitzing. So it does have its downsides with it, but it's been treating me pretty well with at least an 80% win rate, which isn't that bad. Now when it comes down to at least the best team that you could possibly be using for this here, it requires 2 of your SRs, yes, and none of them are actually Fenrir. If you go ahead and do this, you want to go ahead and use SR Asta here, and then you also want to go ahead and use SR Mimosa. This way you have yourself not only a DPS with Yami, but also a nice supporter, or at least debuffer with Charlotte, being able to have that mark. You then have yourself a defender, which is Asta himself here, and then you also have yourself Mimosa. Now, seeing that Beto has recent release, of course, Asta can be replaced, so technically Beto is in the best team now. But if you want to be like more of a free-to-play side of things, Asta and Mimosa are your way, or your ticket to at least getting everything done correctly. Mimosa, of course, doing pretty much everything that other Mimosa does, just for her red attribute here. Asta being able to at least have his taunt and defense pretty dang well, while everyone else gets the additionals and kills off pretty easily. This team is absolutely amazing. It's one of the few teams that I actually want to try and run the most, but it does very much so help. Now, of course, if you don't have Mimosa and you can't really use that too much, you can use Teresia here, and which is very much so helpful. She at least having herself not only the continuous damage, but HP recovery, which is based off her M attack. This heals everybody as well. She can also apply different burns, dealing just damage in general. Even though she is a supporter, or at least a healer, she still can back herself up pretty dang well. Also getting some more HP recovery and different things that also reduce her damage taken. So she's definitely a good pick to have if you don't have Mimosa, but for the most part you want to run Mimosa as the first team, and this could be a different team in the future. Now, of course, if you don't have that team, as I did say, Beto can of course be replacing Asta. Haven't gotten the chance to try him out or see people try him out really, because I just don't know really many people who really summon for him like that. But if you don't have those units and you want to use your seasonal Asta instead of SR Asta, we do have a team for that as well. So for this team here, you will be using Fenrir, which is going to be your speed demon here. You also want to use Noelle, which actually I was testing this out earlier. Being able to have that barrier is absolutely clutch. And then you want to go ahead, instead of using Red Yami, go ahead and use Red Asta. Seeing a lot of people picked him as their freebie as well. Having a good damager in the team. And then lastly, you want to use Mimosa. Now, if you don't have Mimosa as a healer, very well you could try to stack in some more DPS here, but Mimosa is going to be the one you want to go ahead and go for. Once again, if you don't have her, you could possibly use Teresia, so it doesn't matter. You have 2 options in this, but this is the team that you want to be running. Now, alongside with this team here, we're not really going to change up the other things that I was showing as well. You want to go ahead and use the skill 2 and the ultimate for at least general here. For this, you want to go ahead and use the ultimate, then the skill 2 for Noelle, and then the ultimate and skill 2 for Asta. And for this one, I would like to say the skill 2 and the ultimate for Mimosa. This way, you're at least being able to at least mix match your damage as well as your support when you do need it, and it does come in very much so handy. This team itself is pretty self-sustaining. They actually do pretty dang well when it comes down to actually doing things, you know, for this whole dungeon. Though at the end of the day, you will need some decent gear as well, seeing that you're running a decent bit of SRs here inside of this team, and they're going to have a little bit of worse space stats. But that's never stopped anyone before. But those are all the teams that I can at least tell you guys that I know of so far that are going to be the best teams to use for these gear stages. If you guys have any other options or any other type of teams that you would like to share, be sure to comment them down below in the comment section. But without further ado, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, slap that like button on your forehead. Consider subscribing if you are new. I do daily BlackClover mobile updates and just uploads in general. So, till later, everybody. Stay safe, stay sharp, and stay determined. Peace.